Welcome inside episode 657 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. And yeah, the Sens have won 4 games in a row, but it's all overshadowed this morning as DJ Smith announced that Josh Norris will be out long term.
But for some positive news, we're getting back to our SensCentral Citizen segment, and this one is a good one. It's Phil Lallier. He joins us to tell us a lot about, we had a lot of jersey talk on this one, optimism for the season, and he loves getting his SensCentral merch, and we appreciate that.
All that, and the Belleville Sens are in action tonight, taking on the Laval Rocket. This is the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Thank you for making Locked On Senators your first listen on this Wednesday, October 26th. The show is free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube, where the best way you can help the show grow is to subscribe to the Locked On Senators channel, be a friend, tell a friend, get everyone involved, and make sure you're smashing the like button as well. Today is brutal because we should be reveling in a 4-game win streak, but instead we're talking about what sounds like it could be season-ending injury for Josh Norris.
Ross, this is so devastating. And I mentioned earlier, this is going to be an injury that's not measured in days, but weeks. I did not expect to say this is an injury measured in not weeks, but months, as the news is being reported that it's going to be about 3 months here. And at best, it's going to seem like Josh Norris will be a trade deadline acquisition because this is a shoulder injury. He's had issues with his shoulder already. And for a centerman in his young 20s, to have this many shoulder problems, it's going to be tough sledding for Josh Norris. We hope he has a speedy recovery, and I'm going to be optimistic about this, Ross, and say I do expect him to come back at the end of the season here, but to have a whole season without one of your top centers in a year that has so much optimism and hope for the Ottawa Senators is going to be a big problem.
First year of an 8-year contract, paying him just a shade under $8 million per, and this is his third major shoulder injury. The first one happened at the World Juniors. He missed the last half of his final college season at Michigan. We know he missed 20 games last year with another shoulder injury, and DJ Smith saying this morning that this is the same shoulder, but a different injury. So this means they're evaluating their options, and it sounds like surgery is on the table, if not likely. A DJ Smith direct quote is saying it would be great if we get him back at some point this season.
Man, I mean, finally the Sens get off to a good start. Everyone's feeling good, and this kind of news has to drop. I mean, the injuries have been all over the place, and we'll get into more injuries on Belleville, but none more serious than Josh Norris, obviously, and this is going to have a major impact on this team. Like, we're finally seeing some chemistry between these lines. Again, savvy pickup by Pierre Dorion getting Derek Brassard. It cannot be understated how big that is now, because otherwise you're scrambling to find a replacement. And you probably have to give up some assets to go out and find someone. But for now, Ross, in the short term, I'm comfortable with how this team is. Obviously, it's not ideal. You'd take Josh Norris over aging Derek Brassard any day of the week. But I do think this is a good enough scenario right now that the Sens should be able to hang on. And we're going to need to see elevation from other players and players that we've already seen elevation from. I mean, Shane Pinto, this is it. Like, if you ever were going to be given an opportunity to shine, not that he hasn't shined already, but this is it now. And we're really going to see what he can do in a bigger role.
1 goal, 1 assist on the season for Josh Norris, 2 points in 5 games. And after a -3 outing against Buffalo in the season opener, he's been +3. He's been good on faceoffs, averaging about 18 minutes per game. Obviously, only played 14 against Arizona when the injury occurred. And it looked like an innocent play, Pillsy. It was just off a faceoff. And ironically, that was the only faceoff he lost in that game. He went 5 for 6. And of course, you don't expect someone to win a faceoff when they injure their shoulder on the play. But how eerily similar was it to when Shane Pinto ultimately hurt his shoulder when he tried to come back against Pittsburgh. It was just a face-off against Brian Boyle, and next thing you know, he's out for the rest of the season.
It was very similar, Ross, but just Brandon Piller, not a doctor. Just from what I saw, I didn't think it was as serious as Pinto, because Pinto, he doesn't even fall. Nothing happens. And you can see in that Pinto injury, his shoulder literally falls down. Like there's I don't know how shoulders work, but if you see my shoulders like this, I've got it up, and his just droops all the way down. There's nothing holding that thing up. And Josh Norris, it seemed like when he fell, that was it. And when he skated off, it didn't have that same kind of droop. It didn't look like it was lifeless like Pintos did. So I thought, okay, this is a guy who's had shoulder problems before. Maybe he just tweaks something, and he's going to be out a couple weeks rehabbing. But then when he starts smashing his stick and losing it, that's when you know, like, the adrenaline is there, and he's just so upset because he knows no one can tell you better than Josh Norris that when that injury happened, he knew it was going to be a big deal. And this is devastating, not only, Ross, for the obvious reasons that Josh Norris is a great centerman and a big part of this team, but he's also a big part of the culture of this team too. So to lose a guy like Josh Norris for seemingly an entire season, or at least most of it, I think that could have an effect on this room and how guys are feeling. So hopefully they can pick up where they've been going with great wins at home. Another home game coming up against the Minnesota Wild tomorrow, but it cannot be understated how massive of a loss this is.
It really, it just sucks. Like, this is a kid who's just coming into his own in his last 71 games. So last year plus this year, 36 goals in his last 71 games, 57 points. He's a way above 50% guy in the faceoff circle. He brings everything to the table. And I hope it's a similar situation like we saw with Drake Batherson when he was out last year, like we saw with Angus Crookshank when he was out for the year last year, where he stays around the group and he's in Ottawa rehabbing.
I'm sure he will, yeah.
It's important. Even just like what Angus told us in the summer, he's like, I don't know what my mental health would have been like if I had to go back home to Vancouver or elsewhere to rehab.
Then you're on an island on your own. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to be able to be around the guys. And obviously Josh Norris, like, to me, if either Giroux, Kachuk, or Shabbat are out of the lineup, like, he's the first guy I'm strapping an A on to. So he is definitely involved in the leadership group on this team. And just an awful injury on a non-contact play against Arizona on Saturday. But Pilsy, like you said, the team has to move forward. They got the win without him against Dallas. And Team of Destiny, free trade deadline acquisition. Like, I think that's as positive as you can get to what's going on with Josh Norris right now. And I guess the fact that it's a different injury might help. I don't again, not a doctor. Don't know how many different injuries you can have with your shoulder, but hopefully it comes. Hey, we saw Shane Pinto come back from a shoulder surgery, look just as good. So let's hope that that's the case with Josh Norris and that he can get back for a stretch run with the Sens.
Ross, again, I don't know these things about shoulders, not a doctor, but in my opinion, I almost feel like that's worse because, like, if it was the same part of the shoulder, then at least you got other parts of the shoulder doing fine. But now it almost seems like, to me, and again, I don't know these things, but my dumb brain is just saying, well, now that the rest of his shoulder that we thought was at least okay is going to be totally screwed. It is like, what is going to happen to his overall shoulder going forward here? How many parts of a shoulder can be brutally injured? I don't know. So to have a different part of that same shoulder now, a massive major injury, that's concerning for me, especially for a centerman that is a big part of his game is, as you mentioned, as a young centerman, being able to snap him back on the draws. And a guy that's known for his shooting, your shoulder, there's a good amount of torque that comes into that when you're taking those big one-timers in his office on the power play. I am very concerned for the future of Josh Norris here.
Yeah, so am I. But when you look at it, he came back in March of last year, right?
I believe so, something like that. Yeah,
17 goals in his last 30 games, Pilsy, after coming back from that injury. So clearly was able to heal up, and that shot ain't going anywhere. And hopefully he can rehab fully again and be the important player we know he will be to the future success of the Ottawa Senators. We're already starting to see people, though, say, hey, look, it sucks. It's reality, though. And now you can put that on the LTIR and have some serious cap flexibility for the rest of this year. And our friends over at the SensCentral podcast just name drop Bo Horvat, who's in the final year of his contract. Could you imagine something like that? Of course, nothing imminent right now. DJ Smith electing to keep the lines like he did against Dallas, where Derek Brassard plays with DeBrincat and Giroux on the second unit. Keep that line together with Pinto and Joseph and Tyler Mott and Pilsy. That means we're seeing a double dip of Alex DeBrincat on the power play again.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like with obviously a terrible situation, other guys are going to get chances here. And the Senators are set up, thankfully, that they have enough depth that they try to work around this. And I think for now, keep that third line together. They're humming too good. Let Derek Brassard continue to cook on that second line. But my concern is how sustainable is that in a long-term scenario now that we know it's going to be months.
Goal per game. Derek Brassard.
Yeah, if he can keep a goal per game for the rest of the season. And I think, Ross, now we're getting our answer. And just to try to put a positive spin on this, Ross, we're going to get to see Derek Brassard play his 1,000th game as a member of your Ottawa Senators. So that's a nice little treat we're going to have in about 48 games.
Do you think Norris still has to pitch in on the gift?
I mean, he's got the contract. He could toss in a couple shekels to help out there. But yeah, what this is going to do for the remainder of the team. And I feel so bad for DJ Smith, Ross. Like, finally he gets a roster that is all put together. He's got everything in place. And then something like this happens where it's never been a perfect scenario or even an ideal scenario for DJ Smith. But maybe that's a good thing. He's had to battle through adversity before. He's had to figure it out. And now just the next challenge for him has come up here.
And that's hockey too, right? Like, you're never going to have your ideal line combinations forever. Like, you see it around the league. There's already guys who are out long-term, and now the Senators are going to have to deal with the loss of Josh Norris. We wish him all the best in his recovery, and we hope that he comes back even stronger because, again, the good news, Pilsy, is if this guy was 30 years old and had this number of shoulder injuries, I would be even more concerned. He's 23 years old. So hopefully this is just a bump in the road and he can come back better than ever afterwards. Of course, over the next coming days, we'll discuss how this injury will affect the Ottawa Senators and will they go out and make a big splash. I'm seeing some people now get ahead of themselves. Someone throwing Patrick Kane's name out there to get Alex DeBrincat going.
That would be wild. Oh my God.
Let's see what this team has without Josh Norris. They're 1-0 without him on the season. But of course, you cannot understate this loss for the Ottawa Senators. They're going to have to turn the page, though. Coming up next is the Minnesota Wild, who beat the Montreal Canadiens last night. Before the game, though, we spoke to Seth Tupal of Locked On Wild. Later on in the show, we're going to give you a little glimpse of that interview expected to drop in your audio podcast feeds and on YouTube tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern. So that'll give a 24-hour window that you can catch that ahead of the Wild's visit to Ottawa tomorrow night. But first, Pilsy, we got a word from one of our favorite sponsors, and then a SensCentral Citizen. It's been too long before we've had one of those. Excited to kick it back up with Phil Lallier.
Yeah, Ross, when major injuries happen, we've all been dipping our toes in sports gambling with the Sens doing well. Makes you wonder, how is Josh Norris' injury going to affect the Ottawa Senators' odds on a nightly basis? Well, if you are interested in finding that out, there's no better place to go than BetOnline.net. It's the trusted online sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network, and for a good reason. It's your best spot for all your sports scores, updates, news, analysis, podcasts, and more. They got all the best totals, player performance props, alternate spreads, so many fun things you can check out at BetOnline.net. It's not just hockey either. They got football, baseball, basketball, golf, UFC, boxing, whatever you like, they got it. So we recommend you head to the website today, betonline.net, or check it out on your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. Guys, it's betonline.net, where the game starts.
All right, let's get to this week's SensCentral Citizen. It's Phil Lallier. All right, we now welcome on this week's SensCentral Citizen. It's a friend of ours who we've got to meet at the last two Sens meetups. We saw him at the home opener, and now he joins us on Locked On Senators. Phil Lallier. You can go follow him on Twitter at PLal. How you doing today, Phil?
I'm pretty good. Fired up after our so far 4-0 homestand.
Nothing wrong with that. Have you made it to any other games or just the home opener?
I went on to go see the Washington play for the first time. I haven't seen Ovi play yet at all. Been trying to get out and just life and whatever there. And we were out in Stittsville, and my wife asked, "Hey, do you want to go to the game?" I'm like, "Sure, if you want to. Like, no big deal." And she's like, "Yeah, let's do it." So fired up game time, picked up 2 seats. We sat in section 101, like 3 rows up from the glass.
Nice.
Yeah.
No way. Now,
Yeah.
wife of the year, 1, and 2, how were you even able to go to that game on Thursday? I didn't have a voice until Saturday. Like I was out of it.
Um, you know, it's a good
Phil's
question.
built different, Ross.
100% built different. It's those built bars.
I'm soft.
There,
Yeah,
nice
I'm
plug.
soft.
I
I'm
like that. I
soft.
mean, talk about 2 home games to get to go to kick off the season. First, and yeah, it's kind of a tale of 2 cities here. You get all in one city, though, ironically, in Ottawa, Ontario. But for the home opener, the Sens get off to a 2-0 lead right off the bat. So you're feeling good, and it turns into a crazy game. And then the Washington game, the Caps get off to a 2-0 lead. What was the biggest difference in those games for you? Give me from a vibes perspective of the atmosphere, Phil, comparing the home opener to the Caps game.
I mean, like, going into the second game, it was pretty sweet. Like, I hadn't seen a regular season game in the hundreds. It was a different vibe, different crowd. But I don't know what happened after that first period, what DJ did, what Brady did, what any of the boys did, but they just lit a whole other fire under their butts and just came out guns a-blazing. And after they got that first goal, and then the second goal, I was like, it's done. Like, it's our game. And for the home opener, it was an amazing experience seeing Alfie come out. I was crying my eyes out and probably cried the whole first period. But it was nice to see that even though it was a smaller crowd, the Rockets crowd still kept going. And I even heard it on the radio yesterday when I had won tickets for the game from work, but unfortunately I lost my grandfather on the weekend, and we had a prior engagement that I couldn't go to the game. So, but I was nice enough to give the tickets I got to one of my buddies from our part of a Sens chat with Nick and Reese as well, and I gave it to Chris, and he was able to take his son, and they got upgraded down to the hundreds, which is pretty sick.
Amazing. Well, first off, sorry for your loss. I mean, I'm kind of at a loss for words about that. I'm sure that it's a tough time for the family, even though, with the grandparents, I feel like it's a little bit different. You're celebrating their life more
Yep.
than tragedy, but we do want to lend our condolences to you there. It was awesome to get to see you at the home opener. I'm really glad that you could make that. Now, what going into the season, like, what were your expectations for this team?
I was hoping that they would have that they'd be like just a hair over 500 and not be like this competitive right off the bat. I thought that it would be a little bit of a slower start to start the season, as traditionally how it is usually with how they've been over the last few years. But I don't know, like after the first win, uh, and them fighting through with Buffalo and even with Toronto, it was nice to see that them turn things around against Boston, and then continue that success against Arizona and Washington, as well as Dallas last night. Hopefully they can keep it going. I might actually go to the game on Thursday.
There
At
you
least going to
go.
try to.
That's awesome. And now, obviously, you mentioned Stittsville. You mentioned you're getting out to a lot of games, so you're an Ottawa area guy. Phil, we're getting way ahead of ourselves in the SensCentral Citizen Chat. We haven't even asked the golden question that we usually always start off with, so I'll hit you with it. How and when did you become an Ottawa Senators fan?
So I actually started as a Habs fan. I grew up in Montreal, moved to Ottawa in '94.
Nice.
Yeah, my first game, like professionally, was during the playoffs when the Habs won the Cup in '92-'93. I'm old enough to remember that. But my dad got a job to Ottawa, and when his store would perform well, he'd get tickets to the games.
Nice.
And what hooked me was I went to go see Dallas play in 95, 96, and that was my first Sens game. And then just seeing Alfie, this was like I think his second season, and like once I saw him score, it was a power play goal. It was unreal, and hearing the crowd go, "Wow, that's hooked."
I
And
absolutely love
been
that.
trying to go to at least one at that point, like because I was a kid, like my parents took me to at least like a game a year and whatever there. And I got hooked when the Sens went on their triumphant, well, less than triumphant Stanley Cup run in 07.
Yep.
And I've been a diehard fan since.
Hope you're enjoying our chat with Phil Lallier. We're going to get right back to it. But first, a quick word from our friends at Simply Safe. The numbers don't lie. In the last decade, over 4 million people have chosen Simply Safe Home Security to protect their home. You don't earn the trust of that many people without doing it right. At Simply Safe, your safety is the only thing that matters. They protect you with cutting-edge security technology, powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back. With 24/7 professional monitoring, Simply Safe's agents call you the moment a threat is detected and dispatch police or first responders in an emergency, even if you're not home or can't be reached. Simply Safe blankets your home in protection with advanced sensors for every room, window, and door, HD security cameras for inside and outside your home, smarter ways to detect motion, and even hazard sensors that instantly detect fire, floods, or other threats. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/lockedonnhl. Save 20% on your Simply Safe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month FREE free. Visit simplysafe.com/lockedonnhl to learn more. There's no safe like Simply Safe. All right, now back to this week's SensCentral Citizen with Phil Lallier. Well, if anyone's just listening, Phil's rocking the Stanley Cup final patch on the front of that jersey. There's an A on the other side. I know the answer to this. Philzy, do you know whose name is on the back of that jersey?
Phillips?
That's the only wrong answer that you'd be half right just by having the A on the side. It's a Wade Redden, right?
100% Wade Redden.
That would have been my next guess, so I feel comfortable with that.
Was he your guy back in the day?
Whenever I played defense, I tried to model my game after Redden and Phillips,
Nice.
but mostly Redden. And I played goalie too sometimes when I played road hockey and like ball hockey growing up. Tried to emulate Emery, and then Alfie was a big inspiration for me, which was great because I remember I was in Almont when I had family come down in June, and we were coming back from lunch, and I completely forgot that they were announcing the inductions in the Hall of Fame. And we're in the middle of the parking lot at the Almont Town Hall, and Alfie's name came on. Crappy reception, but power through, and the tears were just flowing.
That's awesome. You're obviously an emotional guy when it comes to Daniel Alfredsson, but Phil, I don't think there was too many dry eyes at the home opener when that like the Sens PR team, everything involving the Sens organization seems to really be on the uptick. They're really hitting everything out of the park recently, but playing his song, "It's a Beautiful Day," and then having the camera show him in the dressing room, I think that's the quickest emotional kind of experience you can give 19,811 people all at the same time. Like it was just incredible. Like, was that something you were expecting at all? Like, take us through the emotions you had when you see Alfie in the building ready to come drop that puck for the home opener.
It was a whirlwind of emotions. My wife looked right at me and she's like, "Are you going to be okay?" And I'm like, I don't know. And then she's like, "It's okay. Cry. Let
just
it out.
Let it go." Yeah, that's good.
Just let it go. And then as soon as I saw him get up, I was like, "This is real. This is happening." Like he's coming down that tunnel again.
Yeah, this isn't pre-recorded. Like he's in the building. Yeah.
And he's making his way down that tunnel. He's making his way to center ice, and just like hearing those Alfie chants, just like brought me back to seeing him like score goals. And like even when his number was retired, not too long after he hung him up for good. Like, I was at that game.
Damn, what an atmosphere, eh?
Yeah, it was amazing. Like, I was only my second home opener. Like, I've been a fan for like 27 years, and now my wife and I will be making it a tradition that
Yep.
every year we're going.
We'll see you there.
You know, Stanley's right before. Yeah, we're making a tradition.
100%.
Too.
Yeah.
Home opener, final home game of the year.
Yep.
Unless we know it's playoffs, then we might have to push it and be like, you know what? The team's resting their top players will rest too. And our resting, though, is saving. So that we can come into town. But the home opener, there is just something special about it, right?
Yeah.
Start of a new season. Everybody has that we can be that team this year mentality. And the Sens have treated their fans to some great home openers. The win against Toronto last year, 3-2, got 3 goals in the first period. But this one was just something special for sure. Now, you mentioned some of the players that you loved growing up. Like, now turning the page to this team, we know you got the old school jersey here, but if you're getting a new 2D jersey, who are you putting on the back? I mean, you could put Alfredson 11 because we saw him rocking it at the home opener too. But out of the players on the team now, who's your new guy?
I've already got a Jimmy jersey, which I picked up towards the end of last season.
Were you wearing at the home opener?
No, he's rocking this one.
You were rocking this one?
I rocked this guy at the home opener.
Okay. Cool.
I actually am working on an Alfie one as well too. That should be done by the time his retirement. His enshrinement into the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Using a local guy to get it all done, have a Stanley Cup patch and everything.
Awesome.
Yeah. But I got the Jimmy jersey all good to go. I have another 2D jersey that I'm going to slap on Brady. I was waiting for him to get named captain before slapping his name and stuff on there, but definitely picking up a Giroux, definitely picking up a Sanderson. Got Batherson, got Pinto in the works. Got to grab a Norris too, and hopefully knock on. Pardon?
Where are you going to put them all?
I got a nice, decent sized closet. And hopefully, knock on wood, Hellberg stays because that'd be sweet to have another 39 in my collection.
I'm not even kidding, Phil. I think Jack Richardson tweeted out that there's a sale on NHL Shop. I think I'm gonna go cop a Magnus Hellberg jersey.
You're not doing it, dude.
I think I'm gonna do it. Like number 39.
Save your money for when Tyler Mott hits 30 points because you're getting one of those.
Yeah, that's true. I do have to do that. But hey, Phil, I got a closet that I could fill with Sens jerseys too. So nothing wrong with growing the economy and helping pay for the next couple contracts that are coming up here. But while we're on jersey talk, I feel like this is the first time we've had a SensCentral Citizen on for this. So I want to get your opinion. How are we feeling about the Sens reverse retro? Let's hear your opinions on that.
I mean, it's missing some laurels for sure.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
I was hoping that they would have gone back to like the old Senegoth with the gold trim.
Yep.
I might pick it up. Not going to slap anybody on it just because it's a nice fashion jersey there just to have in my collection. Probably pick up a Fanatics version of it if they have one. But other than that, I wish they would have gone with the Senegoth logo. That's my only beef with it.
Fair.
Yeah. You don't think it's a little too dark?
A little bit, yeah.
I would have mixed a little more white in it just because, like, I love the black look, but that's what their home ones is.
Yeah, exactly.
Just felt like they had an opportunity to probably be a little more loud. I feel like it's just like when you're scrolling through, let's pretend like we're not in Ottawa. People would just scroll through and be like, all right, Sens, and next. Like for the Florida Panthers one, it's like, oh, damn, like hate it or love it, but it catches your attention. I just
of course.
A little more attention catching.
It's like the Anaheim jersey, which is pretty sick because they brought back that other logo. And then even St. Louis is pretty sweet. I like my favorite one is San Jose's. Their throwback to the California Seals. Yeah.
So we always ask this question as on the SensCentral Citizen segments, and you basically have seen this team play as much as DJ Smith this year. If you were to make one change in the lineup, who would it be, or where would you switch things around?
I mean, like losing Norris is like a blessing in disguise because Broussard stepped right in last night and played pretty good. I'm not too sure, to be honest with you. Like, the third line is killing it. Like, Mott is playing beyond my expectations. I can see why he's your SensCentral standout all the time.
Yeah.
They're Brandon. He's
Phil-
great.
Hey,
Yeah,
Pinto's
Phil's doing a good job pandering to me here. This is going
yeah.
great, Phil.
Pinto's playing phenomenal. Like, I would hope that the second line would gel more. And I know that, like, Stützle is a little bit on the slower side to start. I've seen it with DeBrincat over the last couple of years. He's a little slower to start. The first line is phenomenal. I mean, Kelly and Kastelik are killing it. Like, throwing their body around, dropping gloves, scoring, getting in front of pucks.
Yep.
So, no, not too sure. Pretty much, I think my only beef really is with that second line. I wish it performed more.
well, and the thing is, if you have beef with the line and like they're basically all nearing a point per game, like that's good problems to have for a team
Yeah.
that's been over the last half decade.
For sure.
Pilsy,
Yeah.
what do you got for Phil?
All right, final question for me, Phil. We've had a couple games already. The boys are heating it up at home. We know where some point totals are at, but if you have to predict the rest of the season at the end of this year, 82 games, who's going to be the point leader for your Ottawa Senators?
Ooh, that's a good one. If Brady can continue his tear, I'd say it'd be Brady. But I'm gonna go with a dark horse and say Giroux is gonna finishing with. I'm gonna say he's gonna finish probably close, and if not, about 74 points.
No, 77.
Ross needs 77 for him to hit a clean 1,000.
Okay, 77 then. There you go.
Hey, Phil, you did enough pandering for Pills. You got to get me one in the mix there as well. Phil, we appreciate it. Everyone go give Phil a follow on Twitter. You can follow him at PLAL. Super easy. 4 letters. No reason why you're not following Phil. Phil, final question for me. How hard is it to keep the standing updated in your username? I always envy people who take the edit profile after every single game and update the Sens record. What's the longest length of time where you realize, like, oh, damn it, I haven't updated it?
Probably like 5 or 6 minutes after after the win against Arizona. I had the guys in my chat remind me that, like, hey Phil, you're an idiot. Please change your name because we're 3-2, not 2-2.
That's a big one to go above 500. Like, that's the one you got to be ready to hit right away. But we'll give you a bit of forgiveness on that, especially Phil, because we can't thank you enough for being the first person to buy our new merch. You are the OG new SensCentral merch holder. You got to be excited for those to get your way. They're probably on their way now. You got 3 different things, right?
Yeah. I got the Sens sweater. I had to because it's like my favorite saying.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Pretty sure I got another. I think I got a crew neck or 2. I know I definitely got the one with the logo there that Graham made. And I think
good out Graham for that.
Yeah.
Big time.
And pretty sure I got just like the SensCentral hoodie or
Citizen
there.
Which means, guess what? Now you can officially rock it.
Yeah. I mean, I wear my T-shirt like almost like at least like once or twice a week. I wore it to the home opener, and I also underneath. And then I washed it and I wore it to work on the Thursday before the Washington game. And thankfully, my wife had my Stützle jersey in the car because I left it in there from FanFest, so I was able to rock both.
Man, I feel like we have to get your wife on as a SensCentral Citizen. She's feeding more assists than Timmy on a good night.
For sure.
Hey, she got you last minute. She's like, let's go to the game against Washington. She's got your jersey ready in the car.
Yep.
MVP right there. And so have you, man. We really do appreciate the support, and it's been great having you on as a SensCentral Citizen, and we look forward to our next chat already, whether it's at the CTC or back on the show again. Thanks so much, man.
Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right. Stick taps to Phil for joining us. Really appreciate that, and appreciate him, as Pilsy brought up, for really setting the tone with our SensCentral merch. Our merch is available on the internet, and you can go find that link right through our link tree. That's where you can find our YouTube as well. You can go subscribe there at Locked On Senators. And while you're there, go give some love to our friend Seth Tupal from Locked On Wild.
Yeah.
Pillsy, we always have fun conversations with him.
Yeah, Seth is definitely one of our favorite hosts on the Locked On NHL network, and he does a great job with Locked On Wild. It's too bad we only get to kind of fully interact with them head to head 2 times a year, but nonetheless, when we do, it's always fun. And that Minnesota Wild team, lots of interesting storylines to dig into.
Yes, so let's give you a little clip. But again, the full interview, 30 minutes, is coming out this evening. But here's a little glimpse of our chat with Seth Tupal. But Seth, what's going on, man? How are you doing?
Fellas, what's happening? Love the start that we've had to the season. Oh, wait, no, the Wild are not where we want them to be. But hey, there's time.
Yeah, it's only been a few games. That's what you're telling yourself, right?
I do it just to keep myself from going insane.
Well, last number of years, like the Wild have always been a stout defensive team. And now they're giving up goals more than I can keep track of. What's gone wrong?
You know, I have looked at everything that possibly could have gone wrong for this team. You've got just some bad defense by a defensive core that boasts Jonas Brodin, Jared Spurgeon, Jake Middleton, Matt Dumba, names that normally are good defensively. And just for whatever reason, that core has not been able to get it done so far this year. You've got bad goaltending. The only thing that really has gone well so far has been the power play. Penalty kills not doing that well. And so it was about as bad of a start as you could possibly have imagined for this team. But hopefully it is a little bit of a wake-up call that they're not going to be able to just do what they did last year and outscore teams 6-4, 6-5 every night. Got to do a little better in those key areas. But we got time to write it.
All right, that'll drop at 7 o'clock tonight Eastern time. I think I got my time zones mixed up there, but that's no surprise on this show. We do have a surprise guest for you on Friday's show, something we're going to make regular on Locked On Senders. I know everyone's going to be super fired up when we're able to.
I'm fired up, Ross.
I'm so fired up. Pillsy, we were going to talk Halloween costumes. The Sens had their Halloween party last night, but I mean, the Josh Norris news obviously overshadows any sort of, you can't put a mask on it and call it a costume, right? It just sucks missing Norris. So a couple of the highlights though, I mean, the Swedish Mafia with Brandstrom and Anton Forsberg and their significant others went out as ABBA, which was good. And then you just knew Brady Tkachuk was going to stick with his Will Ferrell theme. So he was able to pull that off. Which was your favorite?
I'm glad you left my guy here because if Mark Kastelic looks enough like Jesus, hopefully he can perform some miracles and help Josh Norris in his recovery. Maybe give him some fast recovery time by some sort of blessing or something like that. Because Mark Kastelic definitely looks like Jesus. Yeah, you got to pull this up. It's absolutely hilarious. Like that's dead on. I mean, if I wondered what Jesus would look like, that is probably it. Mark Kastelic, my guy.
Yeah, we had Mark on the show last year. Great guy. I'm just scrolling up here until I get to this morning. Here it is. This is the ABBA crew with Eric. That's awesome. This is a great look. And then, I got to go to Instagram to grab Brady Tkachuk's one as well. Now, a couple other notes on the Josh Norris injury and who could fill in if and when Derek Brassard, it's decided that maybe it's a little much to ask him at this stage in his career to play a top 6 role. But before we get to that, I mean, Pilsy, I need your reaction. We've seen him as one of the members of Talladega Nights. We've seen him as one of the guys from the other guys as Will Ferrell characters, but this might be Brady Tkachuk's best job as a costume, being Elf.
Yeah, I love it. I'm a big Will Ferrell guy, so any references to Will Ferrell just nails it on the head. I think that awkward smile makes it too, because that's Buddy the Elf just like smiling cheek to cheek here. So yeah, Brady keeps it going. Hopefully, I mean, I think he already did semi-pro as well. So next year, you got to assume Ron Burgundy's up.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer, right? How has he not gone with that yet?
I'm Ron Burgundy.
All right. Well, that's a little fun here as we go on a show where let's just say the thumbnails aren't going to be smiling, as we found out Josh Norris will be out. Bruce Garriock saying 3 months, which I think would be a pretty conservative estimate of how long he'll be out. But Pilsy, I think it's our friend Sens Talk that mentioned it too, and I'm surprised we didn't right off the top. But like, Claude Giroux's no stranger to playing center. If you have to slide him into the middle, call up one of the guys like Igor Roby to slide down. But then you're affecting the whole lineup. I think at that point, and you want to kind of be as less disruptive as you can.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's going to be a long time. So see what works. Stick with the status quo for now, in my opinion. If things don't work, then yeah, that is a great thing that I kind of overlooked. Claude Giroux sliding into the center. I mean, he's one of the greatest face-off guys in the NHL for a long time. So yeah, I definitely think there's options. There's young guys waiting in the wings in Belleville that can come up here. So I'm not quite on the train of Josh Norris, LTIR, go out and spend assets to get a rental centerman here. That's not where I'm at yet, but it's an option. That's the thing. The Senators have given themselves options. They're not desperate to have to do that now like they would if they traded Pinto for Chychrun or something like that. So I think, although it's unfortunate, the Sens are still in a good place here.
And one of those youth players in Belleville that could help is back in the lineup tonight. Ridley Gregg will return to play Laval at the scene of the crime. He left the first game of the year in Laval, and now he's back. And Belleville got 2 wins against Laval last week. They haven't won since. So this is a big game for the boys in Belleville.
This is a massive game, Ross. And just to when it rains, it pours. There's so many injuries in Belleville as well. Like, how many goalies can get injured in this franchise? It's crazy. Antoine Bibeau, you're looking at the 5th stringer. No, maybe you could even say he's
5th.
He could be the 6th stringer, though. If you get Forsberg,
Yeah,
Talbot, Hellberg, Sogard, Mando, and then Bibeau, like, they're dropping like flies here. Unfortunately, it looks like he is going to be out for a week or two with a groin injury. Yeah, 1 to 2 weeks. But the good news, Ross, is Sogi is on the mend. He's going to start either Friday in Milwaukee or Saturday in Rockford, so it's not a big problem. Logan Flaudel has been called up from the Allen Americans to back up Kevin Mando. But Jace Howerluck, he's out for 4 to 6 weeks. Cedric Pare, 1 to 2 weeks. Philip Daou, 2 to 4 weeks. And then Bibeau also hurt here. So it is tough times for your Ottawa Senators franchise, including the Belleville Senators. But hopefully they get a little bit of that magic back. Like you mentioned, they were able to beat up on Laval. Hopefully they can still do that. And Troy Mann mentioned, although this is unfortunate, it is an opportunity for a guy like Igor Sokolov who has not scored yet. He needs to step up. We've been talking about the offseason he had. He slimmed down. He was disciplined. He was working on his skating almost every day out over in the East Coast there. So now is the time, Igor. We want to see Igor Sokolov have a big season, and we're rooting for him in a big way.
100%. Very well said, Pillsy. Any final thoughts for today's show? We've got bonus content coming tonight. We've got tomorrow's episode, a game day edition, and then stay tuned because I'm going to go so far as saying it's a big announcement on Friday.
Oh, definitely a big announcement. And yeah, it's...
You know what? We're going to announce it in the postcast Thursday night. We're going to announce it in the postcast. Make sure you join us. The postcast crowds have been unbelievable.
Yep.
And hopefully if the team keep it rolling, we will as well.
Yeah, I think that's the play, Ross. Good job holding off on this tease, Ross. I'm even tempted to leak this tease because it's that big and that fun. So we're going to...
Wait, can I get a little credit to me? Credit to me?
Yep. Well earned. Credit to you, Ross. So stay tuned for that. Although you guys know, through dark times in Ottawa Senators history, we've always found some way to keep things fun and keep things optimistic. And that is what we will continue to do here. Because yes, it's terrible news that Josh Norris is out long term. But let's move that dark cloud aside and have the sunshine, Rossi. Your Ottawa Senators are on a 4-game win streak at home, and they have yet another home game to keep that win streak alive. Imagine 5 straight wins at home to kick off the season. That would be incredible.
The Sens haven't won 5 straight games since March of 2017.
Yeah, that sounds
March
about right.
of 2017, Pillsy.
Oh.
5 years ago, Mark Mathot was patrolling the Sens blue line when they last won 5 games in a row. Derek Brassard was the number 2 center. Wait,
yeah.
Oh, the more things stay the same then, hey?
No kidding, eh? Oh my God.
Well, we'll have a game day edition of the show for you tomorrow. Again, a reminder, bonus coverage coming later on. So make sure you be a friend, tell a friend, stay locked on Senators wherever you get your podcast, and on YouTube. The road to 10,000 Twitter followers is alive and well. We've hit 9K. It's time to get to 10, and we'll have to do something special for that.
Yes.
But that is to be determined. For now, we'll leave you with the fact that good news is coming for the Locked On Senators podcast. So grab a Shawarma Palace and settle in for tomorrow's episode, and then a big game where the Sens can go for 5 straight wins. But for today, we say goodbye. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan, and this has been the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.